All right, it's now 11:03. We're going to go ahead and get started. I do want to thank everybody for joining us for the first of a four-part series for the Achievement of Excellence in Procurement Education Series. I just want to remind you a couple quick ground rules. If you are not speaking, please mute yourself so we don't get a lot of feedback. You will have the opportunity to ask questions in the chat. We will be monitoring those. As well, at the end, I'll open it up for anybody that would like to ask their question over the audio. And at that time, you can unmute yourself, ask the question, and we will try and answer it. We're going to go ahead and start off. I would like to thank our government educational partner, Sourcewell. They provided the funding to allow us to present this to everyone free of charge. A big thanks goes out to Sourcewell, and we're going to have a quick introduction video from them.
Hi, my name is Ginger Line, and I work as a Client Development Administrator at Sourcewell. Looking at the list of attendees, I recognize many of you from other NPI and NIGP events. I first started working at Sourcewell in 2008 in our procurement department. As our cooperative purchasing contract use and offerings grew rapidly, we struggled finding time beyond our regular day-to-day work. Each year at NPI, we were inspired by other government procurement professionals walking across the stage to receive their AEP award. Sourcewell staff wanted to join this distinguished group. In 2016, the Sourcewell team applied for our first AEP award, and I was the project manager. And let me tell you, I was immediately overwhelmed by the application. I'm sure many of you are asking the same questions I did. How am I going to get this information and put it together? Is our process good enough for an award? And what happens if we don't get it? But like the saying goes, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And just like we are here to help guide you today, Sourcewell leaders put together a team to help me with our application. We pulled together representatives from all departments to help draft answers, gather data, and submit the responses. We did earn the AEP award that first year, and 5 more times since. But the real success comes from the application process. It forces us to examine our own procurement process and make meaningful adjustments. We realize each year it takes effort and a team to make this happen, as we learn even more about ourselves and we get re-energized to strive for continuous improvement for each other and for the procurement experts who use our contracts. We're in the middle of our 7th application, and I hope to see all of you in Atlanta in October to hear about your AEP adventures. Today, I'm happy you are here, taking that first bite to say, we are going to apply or apply again. Congratulations.
Fantastic. And again, thank you to our educational partner, Sourcewell, and to Ginger for putting together such a fantastic presentation there. Just a reminder, again, please, everybody, if you could put yourself on mute, we'd appreciate that. As we go through, feel free to ask questions in the chat, or feel free if you want to stop me, unmute yourself, or raise your hand, say you got a quick question, and we can answer it at that time. All right, so what I am going to do is I'm going to just kind of start off. I'm going to share my screen here. And what I'm going to do is just, for those people who have not applied for the AEP award in the past, or those that are new to the process, I'm going to give you a quick little walkthrough on how you access the AEP application, the portal, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to cover some of the changes since last year's application, and then open it up for any questions. So what you're viewing here is our NPI homepage. NPI is the National Procurement Institute. And for those of you who don't know, we created the award 27 years ago, back in 1995. And the AEP is sponsored by every major public procurement association across North America. And thank you to our sponsors for being a part of this fantastic program. In order to access the AEP application and the entrance to the AEP application portal, you need to start here where it says AEP Award and click on Application and Instructions. Now, what you'll see here is an AEP application login button, an application payment button, and then below that you have links to the 2022 AEP application in PDF form, a list of the revisions since last year, and then a document that gives you suggestions for uploading things online. Now, one thing that I've seen as a common mistake when I get questions, people actually go up here where it says member login. That is to the member section of the NPI website. That does not give you access to the AEP application portal. And in fact, you do not have to be an NPI member to submit for the AEP application. But I would highly recommend it if you're not. One, it gives you access to our model submittals from the prior year to help you in your application process. And two, it gives you a $200 discount on the AEP application itself. NPI membership is only $130 a year, so you do the math, it makes sense to be an NPI member. However, regardless of whether you're a member or not, everybody clicks here on the AEP application login in order to access the application portal. So I'm going to do that. Now, you will come to this page. If you have never applied for the AEP in the past, or you are a new user, you will need to register a new account. However, if you have used this system in the past, you're just going to enter your credentials here, and it will log you in to the AEP portal. Now, mine's going to look a little bit different than everyone else's, just because I'm an administrator. And so I have access to our scoring area, our administration area, and then my own personal application. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this such that I am applying. So this is what you would see minus these two tabs, the scoring tab and the admin tab. It should just be blue with these options up top when you are entering your information. Real quick, another question that I routinely get is, hey, Brian, how do we access our scorecard from prior years? And it's really easy. You just log into the AEP application portal, just like I recently did, and then you click on History. When you click on History, you're going to see the scorecards from all of your prior year's submittals. Since I'm with the Golden Gate Bridge Highway and Transportation District, you can see my list of scorecards here. Now, the only thing you're not going to find is you're not going to find scorecards prior to the time that the AEP went online, which I believe our first year was 2015. I think our 20-year was the first time that we went online. Prior to that, for those of you who are longtime applicants, you'll remember the giant binders that you have to submit, and we would have to evaluate. It's a heck of a lot easier now that it's online. But again, you'll be able to access your scorecards, and just by clicking on that scorecard, you will be able to see the points that you got. You'll be able to see any comments that were left by evaluators from prior years. In addition, you can download the actual submission that you entered last year if you want to view that for any reason. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and cover the tabs here across the top. As an applicant, if you want to see the instructions for applying, you just obviously click on Instructions. This is the same information that you're going to find in the PDF application, but it's going to give you all the a list of items that are needed. It's going to show our sponsors, instructions for submitting, along with the date, and then talk a little bit about how we evaluate and score the criteria. Also note that we have italicized the changes like we do every year. So when you're going through the application, if you see anything in italics, make sure you pay particular attention to that, because it's going to show you what was changes from prior years. After viewing the instructions and prior to entering any information, you're going to have to fill out this page. It's the application information. One thing that's important is this name on your trophy. So what you're going to want to enter here is exactly what you want to appear on the AEP trophy that you will receive if and when you are successful. Now note that one thing, if I were to misspell something, and we don't catch that in the review process, you may get something misspelled on your trophy. We do review it multiple times through multiple people, not to say that we haven't made mistakes in the past, but as a reminder, you're probably not going to want to put your name here. You're going to want to put the name of your organization or your association so that you get the correct name on your trophy. After that, you're going to fill out the information related to your chief procurement official and to your organizational official who you want notified when you're a successful applicant. So go through and fill out this information. You can click Save and Continue. It's going to require me to enter my email address. And then it's going to allow me to go into the application. One thing I wanted to show you, I went through and added some things just so I didn't have to do it while we were going through this process. One thing that you'll notice is the green highlighted number is where you're at. The numbers that are in dark blue are things that you've completed. And the numbers that are in red are ones that you have not completed. Or excuse me, they're ones that you've said no, that you're not going to submit a response. So taking this first criterion here, you can read that it's the criteria is related to establishment of a procurement ethics policy. You read the information, decide whether or not you wish to submit a response. If the answer is no, you just click on it, hit submit, and you're going to go right on to the next question. If you do want to submit a response, click yes. Browse for the file of whatever you want to submit that's on your computer. For this one, I'm going to submit the file that I appropriately titled 1 Procurement Ethics to make it easy to find. I'm going to upload the document. It'll tell you what document is uploaded, procurement ethics, and then I can go on to the next question, the next criteria. Right now, I'm going to take a quick moment. It looks like we have some questions in the chat. As a reminder, please mute yourself unless you're ready to ask a question. I'm going to go into the chat here and take a quick glance at that before I move on forward. All right, Christina Pryor, one of our evaluators, has added that if please review your scorecards when you're submitting and the comments. If you submitted for Criterion did not receive the points last year, the comments will help you improve your submission. Very wise comment there. Thank you. All right, Melissa said, is it only the person who submitted able to see past entries, or does it go by organization? It's a great question, Melissa. It goes by organization. So the way that we have set up the AEP portal is to identify people based on the suffix of their email address. So for example, mine is @goldengate.org. So anybody that logs in, or excuse me, that creates a login and then subsequently logs into the AEP portal with an @goldengate.org email address will be able to see what I have submitted and the history. So you don't have to, it's not only limited to one person, it goes on by your organization as long as they're using the same email address. Obviously, if the person last year submitted under a personal email address and it's @gmail.com, you're not going to be able to see it unless you log in with an @gmail.com email. Daniel has asked, if you apply for membership, would I need to submit as, in our case, a school district or as an individual to get the discount? If you are a member, if you have a person in your organization that is a member of NPI, you get the discount, and that's verified at the payment process. Doug, great question. Is this session is going to be recorded, and is it going to be posted on our website? It will be posted on our YouTube channel, but you'll be able to access that through our website. Are there any categories that stay consistent year after year, or all of them subject to change? Good question, Al. I would say that all of them are subject to change. That doesn't mean that we change them. There are quite a few that have remained consistent throughout the years. Now, we do strive to look at best practices in our profession and modify criteria as we see fit to raise the bar. For example, I'm going to go over Criterion 7 this year and show you that we changed that significantly. If you've been around in the past few years, you've also changed that we noticed that we changed our environmental purchasing criteria to sustainable procurement, and we changed our cooperative contract criterion to more focus on a cooperative procurement strategy. Each year we take a look at things and modify as we see fit. I'm going to hold off there on some of the other questions so we can kind of get back into to our presentation, and then I will return to the questions at a later time. All right, excuse me. Now, once you have filled out your entire application, you get to the last criteria, and you are completely done. It's going to come to a confirm page. It'll show you the criteria that you have not submitted for. It'll tell you exactly how many points you're eligible for based on the criteria that you submitted responses on, and then ask you if you'd like to proceed. Now, one thing that I want to recommend and ask people to do or not to do is, if you are not submitting for a particular criterion, do not upload a response. If you upload something, we have to review it, and it takes a lot of time. So for example, if I have not submitted a response for 8A, or I don't plan on applying for that, I'm just going to say, no, I'm not going to submit anything. In the past, we've actually seen people that will submit a page that says, I am not applying for this criteria. Again, it just takes more time. We have over 200 applications to go through, and everybody that's submitted one of these in the past knows how long it takes to put it together. It takes a long time to review as well. So we'll just ask you, please, that if you are not submitting, that you don't upload anything. So if I agree that I am done, I'm not going to submit for those. I'm eligible for 110 points. I'm going to go to finalize my application. It's going to give me just a little bit of information on the next NPI conference and our 27th annual award presentation. To go through that, here's where I need to make payment. And what we've done is we've set up the portal so that if you are a member, you can verify your membership and get the discount. And in order to do that, before you submit your application and pay for it, you want to click on this button here. And if you are an NPI member, you're going to log in. Now that I actually started from the wrong place, but now that I'm, oops, I didn't want to do that. Sorry. Let me go back. Clicked on the wrong button. Forgive my less than spectacular typing skills. I'm going to go back to the applications and instructions page. Click on AEP Application Payment. And Craig, help me out here. Is this not live yet, or do I need to register myself? This looks like
Brian,
it keeps taking me back to the event section.
Yeah, you need to register yourself at this point.
Okay, so I click on register myself. It recognizes because I'm logged in that I am a member. I'm going to click that and then finish this process. It's going to give me a code. And then when I get that code, I'm just going to go back and enter it here. And that's going to give me the $200 discount that I'm looking for on my application. Thank you for the follow-up on that, Craig. Now, I've kind of quickly went through the application process. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and take a few more questions, and then I'm going to go through the changes that we've made since last year's application. Okay, so next question I have is, what is the process for disputing a scorecard if after receiving the final scores, we feel we were incorrectly not awarded points for a category? I understand 2 evaluators look at each submission. I'm curious on the dispute process, if any. So first off, Todd, you're absolutely correct. We have 2 evaluators look at each criteria. And what I mean by that is we may have 20 different people that are reviewing one application, but the same 2 are going to, for example, if they're assigned criteria 1 through 3, the same 2 evaluators are going to review criteria 1 through 3 on all applications to ensure consistency. Each of those 2 evaluators has to agree on whether you receive points or you do not receive points in order to finalize the application. Now, with that said, we make mistakes, and we have each and every year, we have a few people that get back to us and say, hey, we don't think this is right. Can you review? One thing I will say is that after the scoring is complete or after you submit your application on May 16, we will not accept supplemental information. Just like if you're doing an RFP or a bid, you know, you wouldn't allow people to provide additional information after the due date. And but if we make a mistake, and if you'd like to call our attention to that, the process is to email me at aep@npiconnection.org. The email address is on the website. I will review that, and then I'll reach out to the evaluators. We'll discuss and we'll provide a response. There are each and every year a few applications that come back to us that either we've made a mistake on or we didn't see a particular section, and we adjust those scores. I will say that we have a lot of information to review in a short period of time. And so the more concise that you can be in your submissions, the easier it is for us to review. Sometimes, you know, we ask for a section of code. If someone submits a 100-page code, doesn't identify the section, and we have to go through that, good chance that we might miss it. So succinct, highlight, annotate, all that good stuff that we ask for each year. Next question is, on average, how many awards are handed out each year? On average, about 200. And in the first year that we issued awards was in 1996, and there were 9 recipients at that time. I think our 20th year was the the highest, which I believe we handed out 212 awards that year. We hovered just above 200 until the last couple of years due to the pandemic. We had less applications and fell below the 200 mark. I hope that we can increase that this year, get it back above the 200 mark, and continuously grow the awards program and the recognition that you all deserve. What is the total amount of points needed out of 200 to be eligible for the award? That's 100 points. We recognize, the committee recognizes that not all people or not all agencies do things the same way. Not all agencies are eligible to receive points for particular criteria due to their statutes and regulations. So it's 100 out of 200. Can you go over that last piece again from Armando? I'm guessing that you were talking about the payment piece. Confirm that for me in the chat, and if I'm right, I'll definitely go over that again. And the last question I have on here is the only way, thanks Armando for confirming that, the only way we find out where we are currently is to submit an application. Is this correct? Now, Daniel, if I'm understanding your question correctly, what I'm hearing is that the only way to understand where your score is at and where your agency falls in the achievement process. If that's where you're getting at, I would say no. There's actually a self-score sheet at the end of the AEP application and the PDF portion of the application. And you can use that to go through and do a self-score and see where you think you might fall, areas that you can achieve the points, and areas maybe where you need to work on to get some of those points. Now, I will say that most people do that. And what that does is it allows people to accurately see where they're at, see where they need to work if they are applying this year, or maybe things they need to work on for next year. There's even people that use it as a map to procurement excellence and they don't apply. So it's definitely a good roadmap. Armando, I'll go through that payment portion one more time real quick. I know it's a little bit confusing, and hopefully I can clear this up for everybody. So again, after I've filled out the application, I've confirmed that I've entered all the criteria or all the documentation that I want to. I'm going to click here to make my payment. This is going to take me back to the AEP, the NPI website. Since I'm already logged in, it's not going to ask me to log in, but it would ask me to log in. I'm going to enter my information to register myself. I'm going to select that I want to pay for the AEP application. And then once I click next, it's going to give me a code that I go back to my application and enter that code in here before I click on submit. So just leave this window open when you're ready to make payment because it's going to again take you to another tab and you can go back and enter that code. If you are not a member and you sign up prior to submitting your application to become a member, then you can log in as a member and get that $200 discount. Again, makes a lot of sense. It's $130 to be an NPI member. And once again, you get access to the AEP model submittals, which are located here under the members only tab. All right, hope that clears that up. And the next thing that I want to do, I'm going to switch over back to my screen here. And then I'd like to quickly, checking the time, looks like we got about 15 minutes. I'm going to quickly go over the changes that we've made and updated to the 2022 application. And then I'll have some time to open it up at the end for any additional questions. Just as a reminder, the changes are on the NPI website under the AEP applications and instructions, and make sure that you take a look at that. You don't want to head down the wrong path and then have to do something over. First thing I want to point out is the application due date is Monday, May 16th. Traditionally, or at least for the last few years, we've had the application due date as May 15. Because that falls on a Sunday, we changed that to May 16. So that's Monday, May 16th at midnight Central Standard Time is when the AEP application portal will close. So make sure you get that in. We'll say you can submit at any time. We have applications that are already submitted, but you can submit at any time up until May 16th. Also note that as in every year, we have date requirements for many of the criteria. Please check those. A question that I routinely get is, hey, I am, for example, I am holding a training session this month in March, will it still qualify for this application period? And the answer is yes. So the application is really designed, the majority of it, to cover last year. So a lot of the criteria you'll see since January 1st of 2021. There are things that go back further than that, like manual updates and audits and stuff that you're definitely not going to do every year, but are still good practices. But the majority of stuff is since January 21st of 2021. Because the application doesn't come out until the prior calendar year, in this case, we posted the application on January 1st. The AEP portal opened on February 1. We give you up until the time that you submit your application to complete the requirements for that criteria. So again, you do something this March of 2022, it meets the requirements of one of the criterion, then you can submit it for points for this year. We do have some language changes throughout some of our criteria, so please review that. Again, if it's in italics, it is changed. Review that, please. A lot of times we get people that submit the same thing over and over, and then we change something. They submit it again without reading it, and then unfortunately we can't award them points for that year. All right, I am going to switch real quickly to the AEP application itself so that I can show you the big change that we made this year, which was to Criterion 7. For those of you who have been submitting for a while, you know that Criterion 7 is our e-procurement criteria. It used to be 8 parts, and we have consolidated that to 3. So let me share that real quick with you. And hopefully now everyone can see Criterion 7 of the AEP application. Again, you'll notice that we have modified this from 8 individual subparts down to 3. Prior applications, this was worth 40 points, which is 25% of our entire application. This year we have modified that down to 30 points and broken up into 3 sections. Again, as things change and things in the past that were a best practice are now a common practice, we're going to remove that from the AEP application to focus on, again, continuing to move the best practices. So what we've done is we have broken this down one into electronic sourcing. That really focuses on what you do externally. So electronic sourcing focuses on vendor registration, notification, posting of your solicitations, tabulations, and award documentation. You can take a look and see a lot of the same requirements are there as in prior criteria, just formatted a bit differently. Section 2, it focuses on internal procurement automation, and again, that, as it's described, focuses on automated procurement within your organization. So automated routing of purchase requisitions, approvals, and PO creation. And it also is focusing on how you send the PO to the vendor. And the system must generate a digital PO, which you can email to the vendor, or you send it automatically through EDI, some form of electronic data interchange, whether that's a punch out or a button you click and it automatically sends that to someone that's pre-registered in your system. That is the focus of section B. And then new this year is a focus on electronic evaluations and automated scorecards. Again, as appropriately named, it's going to be your evaluation process and how the people on your evaluation team are allowed to score those. If you continue, or if you still receive paper proposals and people review those hard copy documents and fill out a score sheet, then obviously that's not going to qualify for the criteria this year. You have to show evidence of an online centralized system that provides for review and scoring of proposals. Notices are sent out to evaluators for the evaluations and deadlines, and digital scorecards that calculate individual scores and also provide for comments, notes, and a means to rank the respondents. Okay, so that's Criterion 7 for this year, again, broken down into 3 parts. If you have any questions on that, feel free to email me at aep@npiconnection.org, and I'll see if I can answer those for you. Quickly check the chat and see if I can answer a question before I move on to the final changes. Got a question. We are a federal government contractor, but not a public company. Are we ineligible for the award? And I'll say, Chris, no, you are not ineligible for the award. What you will see, though, is this award was focused on public and nonprofit procurement. And NPI, the creator of the award, and all of our sponsoring organizations are focused on public procurement and the profession. Now, I will say that you still can submit. However, you have to be able to, meet the criteria as they're written. So if you can go through and you can get 100 points, you can still submit and you are eligible for the award. It's just you'll probably, again, notice that it was written based on the way that public procurement is required to operate. All right, so quickly, again, I'm going to finish off here some of the changes. Criterion 11B, we are requesting an official letter for organizations that have greater than 10 professional staff. And I just noticed that that was written incorrectly on our changes summary, so I will change that. But Criterion 11B is directly related to the education component of your staff, bachelor's degree or higher. What we would like to see, a lot of times people have large staff and it's a problem for them getting everybody's transcripts or diplomas together, and it's a problem for us to review those. I'll tell you, for example, Arizona State University, I think it has about 75 or 80 people in their procurement staff. They have to assemble all of those. We have to review, match up to names. So in lieu of that, what we're doing to make it easier for you and us is asking that you submit a letter from your chief procurement officer or your HR director or whoever is the top employment official, certifying that those individuals hold the degree. So what we're doing is we're just getting confirmation from your department that yes, these people do have the degrees. And again, if that's easier for you, please submit. If you have over 10 people, we ask that you do it that way. Now, the next couple of changes are for Criterion 12, which is a professional staff member with a leadership position, and Criterion 13, which is participation in a professional association. Participation at as a presenter or an author at a professional association conference. The changes for this one are just in the points. What we did this year is we increased those from 5 to 10 points each in recognition that all of our sponsoring associations do have a strategic mission to evaluate the level of the public procurement profession and the recognition of our profession. And as such, we thought it was a great idea to further promote your staff being involved in professional procurement associations at a leadership level, and then also at a presentation level, or you can also draft an article. So those changes are for 12 and 13. All right, criterion number 14. we just changed that, we clarified it such that the solicitation document has to be published or posted after January 1st, 2021, like many of other criteria. And we would like a solicitation cover page showing the issue or a publication date. In addition, the evaluation criteria pages should show or need to show the assigned points or weights. So we just added a little bit of clarification. I received a question in the past similar to, hey, we don't do a solicitation notice page. Can we otherwise provide something that shows the publication or issue date? And my answer is yes, absolutely. If you don't do an official notice page or cover page, as long as you provide the proof that it was published on or after January 1st, 2021, it's perfectly acceptable. Criterion 18, that's continued pursuit of excellence. Basically, as you tell us what is excellence in procurement, and we just clarify that you need to make sure you identify and explain the solution, and that you have clear and measurable results. Right? In the past, we have frequently received a good project, but the project didn't have any results. We couldn't see what it helped solve. So make sure you have clear and measurable results for that. There's a couple changes that we had to do to clarify some language and dates. I won't necessarily go over those, but if you have any questions, feel free to get back to me on that. I'm going to jump back to the chat here and make sure I answer everybody's questions and open it up again for any further questions. Let me see. Someone asked if I can go over 7 again. I will absolutely do that, assuming we've got time. Brian, do you foresee any percentage change to Criterion 11B, perhaps it going lower a bit? And 11B, again, was the educational requirements. Each and every year, the evaluation team, which consists of representatives from all of our sponsoring organizations, discusses the criteria and any changes that we would like to have. We can have that discussion, and based on feedback from all the sponsors, we'll look at that percentage. There hasn't been any talk up until now, but we can definitely look at that requirement. Next question is professional staff. What is the classification of professional staff? For example, we have purchasing technicians that only make purchases under 10,000 and have no educational certificates and less than 3 years experience. Do they qualify as professional staff? I think one thing that you'll notice is that professional staff is defined in the criteria. So it's defined as those staff involved in the traditional procurement contracting functions. And so buyer, contract officer, and I would say purchasing technicians, even though they have low levels of $10,000, they still are doing traditional purchasing. And I would say that qualifies as professional staff, not just the higher level, but anybody that is doing traditional procurement functions. Let me see if we have a little more narrative on the next one. And I think we have the same information on that. I think let me go back to 10. I believe that we do identify professional staff that have been in the public procurement field for 3 or more years. And that's because some of the certifications do require 3 years of experience. So as a second part of your question, Ryan, if they are a purchasing technician and they have been there less than 3 years, then you do not have to count them as far as Criterion 10 is concerned. Are the points given all or none, or can you receive partial points? You cannot receive partial points for an individual criterion. Let's take, for example, professional certification part A. You either get 0 or 10 points. There are no partial points given on any of the criterion. Now, with that said, you can receive points on section B if you meet the requirements. So you don't have to get A and B, or like in the case of 7, you don't have to get A, B, and C. You can receive points for individual subparts of a particular criteria. Will leadership position in ISM qualify? I would say yes. ISM is a procurement association, and as long as the position falls within the requirements of what type of position, I would say that that would qualify. I'll go over 7 again. I think this is the same question on 12. Will leadership position in SM qualify? I think it's ISM. Yes. Would you consider certifications not listed on your professional certification? That question and the next one, a Florida certified contracts manager, would that be accepted? Unfortunately, the answer is no. And the reason for that is there are so many different certifications available. I know Texas has their own. Florida has their own. I think Virginia may have their own. There's other associations out there. So what we have done is we have strategically decided to accept those certifications that are available at a national level, and certifications that we are able to review, and the team determines that they meet the requirements of the professional certification. Not to say that the Florida and the Texas certifications aren't very valuable, because they are. But again, for these specific criteria, we're looking at those that are available at a national level. Does NIGP Public Procurement Associate designation count? I am not necessarily completely familiar with an associate designation, but know the CPP, which is the Certified Procurement Professional designation, does count, but not the associate. Let's see. Scylla asks, would you consider CTCM? I am not sure what CTCM stands for. If you can clarify that acronym, I can hopefully answer that. But again, everything that qualifies is listed in the application. And then, thank you. And then American Purchasing Society, again, no, I'll tell you, we, I think it's been about 5 years. We reviewed the American Purchasing Society, and we tried to, for lack of better terms, partner with them so that they would provide us the application in and of itself so we could review the criteria. We told them what we were looking at it for. They did not provide that information for us, so we were unable to verify the requirements. And there was a couple other things in there that that made it difficult for us to approve that. So again, no American Purchasing Society. All the certifications are listed in the application. Clarified, James, on the 3-year, correct. The education component has nothing to do with the 3-year public procurement minimum. That's only related to certification. And again, the reason we added that is because some people aren't eligible to be certified until after they have that 3 years. All right, with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm sorry, I've got a few minutes. Someone asked me to go back over 7. So I'm going to go back to that real quick and cover that one more time. Again, this year's 7 was broken down into 3 subparts, each worth 10 points apiece. The first one is electronic sourcing, which relates to your interaction with the vendors and the public. You need to submit a narrative describing your system and what the system is and how a vendor would access the system. You need to submit a link where we can verify that you're using the system, and then screenshots demonstrating the system's ability for online vendor registration, automated notifications, so notifications, emails that are sent out to vendors registered to receive notification of your opportunities, how you post online and how vendors access the solicitation online, and then online posting of tabulations and award documentation and how people can view that. Second section is on your internal procurement system. And in order to receive points for that, you have to have an automated system facilitating the procurement process within your organization. That includes creation and routing of electronic requisition, approval of that as it goes through workflow, and then the PO that is created once the procurement process is complete, and how you electronically send that purchase order to the vendor. The third component of Criterion 7 is related to electronic evaluations and automated scorecards. So you need to submit a narrative describing the system and how evaluations are completed. Screenshots showing the application and distribution of the scorecards to evaluators and the process for reviewing scoring submissions. So actually, how do your evaluators go on, view the proposals? Can they make comments? Can they make notes? How do they enter their scores on the scorecards? And then the last component is the actual scorecards, the ability to have those individual scores, add notes to those scorecards, and then the resulting consolidated scorecard, which would identify the winning proposal or proposals or bids or offers, however you want to put that. All right. Go back to chat here real quick. I don't see anybody with a hand raised, so it looks like everybody's putting their questions in chat. I appreciate all the questions. Criterion, let me go back and make sure I don't. Excellent point, Christina. Thank you. She said if you join NPI or are already a member, you can access the model submittals for samples of last year's submissions on each criterion, and definitely helpful when you're preparing yours, especially if this is your first time or if you, for some reason, didn't get points on a particular criterion last year. Steve asked for Criterion 14, we're asked to submit an evaluation matrix or scoring summary comprised of criteria, weights, and respondents. Would an anonymized scoring sheet with suppliers' names removed be accepted? We owe a degree of confidentiality to our bidders and can't share their scores or pricing. Absolutely, Steve. The evaluations can be you can scrub the names from those. I would probably leave the scores, because if you don't have names or scores, it doesn't show that it's been used, right? It would just be a blank. So I would leave the scores, wipe out the names of the suppliers. If they have names of the evaluators, you can wipe out those too. You can just substitute with, offer A, offer B, bidder A, bidder B, so on and so forth. So it shows that the scoring summary matches up to what you said you were going to score on in your solicitation. Hope that makes sense. Criterion A, if the P card info is part of the purchasing manual, would this suffice? Yes, assuming that it meets all of the requirements. You can have a P card manual that is or P card instructions that are embedded in your procurement manual. That definitely would be acceptable, but again, just make sure that it has all of the things that are required under Criterion 8. Does an Excel doc count for 7C? And I would say I'm gonna preface this in that, and actually my answer is on all things. I am not the one that's going to be evaluating your proposals. I have been doing this for quite some time, so hopefully I'm giving you valuable, correct information. But we do have a team of 20 people that evaluate these, and they may have a slightly different take on it, but we always discuss. So with that said, I would probably say no. And the reason why is it is not set up. So using an Excel spreadsheet is, to me, someone just going online and entering all the scores for an evaluator and totaling those up. That is not the intent. The intent is to have online evaluations and an automated scorecard that would consolidate those for you. I don't see how an Excel spreadsheet would get there. But again, if you think it does, meet the intent of the criteria, feel free to submit. But my first take on that would be probably not. Thanks again, Christina, for a great comment. Use your narrative portion of your response to each criteria to explain the reasons why things like the need to redact certain information in your submittal is necessary. Absolutely. If you need to, whatever needs to be explained, use that in your narrative. Keep in mind that our evaluators, again, I had mentioned that they come from all of our sponsoring organizations. So our evaluators are from state, local, K through 12, higher education, cities, counties, and representatives from Canada. So everybody does things a little bit differently and may look at things a little bit differently. You'll notice that the application is fairly broad to hopefully encompass the way that all organizations do things. But again, they may need some explanation, so make sure that you use the narrative section to describe that. With that, it's exactly 12 o'clock. I am going to say thank you very much for all of those in attendance. Thank you for the questions. A big thank you to our government education sponsor, Sourcewell, again, for allowing us to offer this free. A couple of last comments. One, this is recorded and will be posted on our YouTube channel. You can access that through the NPI website. And also, if you attend session 2 and or session 3 of the 4-part series, those sessions are eligible for 1 CEH each. And so for those that are in attendance at those, we will get those out to you. Feel free after this to email me at aep@npiconnection.org with any additional questions, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And maybe Dodie, maybe I'll see you around right up the street. Take care, everybody. Thank you for attending.